Gabe, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a long time. And I just want to say right off the bat that your book has had a huge impact on my life as it's allowed me to learn my first foreign languages. And that's led to a bunch of cool things, including doing this video right now in this YouTube channel and all of this. So thank you for that.
You're welcome for that, and I'm really glad that it's helped.
Cool. And I have here my signed copy of Fluent Forever from your ongoing crowdfunding campaign, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later.
It means the mail has worked in at least one case.
Yes, it works for me, so that's good news.
Did not work for everyone.
Oh my God, it sounds like such a massive undertaking.
It's been insane.
Yeah. But before we get to that, I think
Yes.
it would be helpful to build some context for people that may not be familiar with you. I think a lot of the people listening will have an idea of what Fluent Forever is and what you do. But for those that are not familiar, perhaps we can begin with you and your language interests and how all of this began.
Sure. So long ago now. My language interest sort of began with with singing. I needed to learn German, Italian, and French for opera. I was an opera singer once upon a time. And I wasn't particularly good at the language learning thing. And I was trying to get out of taking lots of semesters of language in college. And a friend of mine told me about Middlebury colleges and the immersion programs there. And I mostly went, part of it was like, this immersion thing sounds neat, and I bet that would be an interesting experience. But a lot of it was, I'm going to get out of 2 semesters of German if I just go here once.
Right.
And getting rid of 1 year of German in exchange for 1 summer sounds really awesome. So it was like a win-win thing.
Yeah.
And I learned German. Immersion is, I kind of want to say flawless. I don't think I've seen anyone get through Middlebury without being able to hold a conversation.
Wow.
It's so strict and so intense that if you don't leave, which plenty of people, not plenty, some people leave. Some people, it's just too stressful. It's one of the most stressful things I've ever done. Like it's a special kind of stress. Like that kind of immersion where you're actually not allowed to speak your native language is brutal.
Yeah.
But you learn. And so I came out of that summer speaking German and singing in German in a way that I'd never done before. And I realized that I had to do this. Like I could not. The difference between singing in a language that you actually can think in and singing in a language that you're faking is just immense. And so I had to keep going. And so I did an immersion thing for German again the following summer and reached fluency. At that point, it was no longer about how many credits can I get out of. Take my dog's collar off before it gets rattly.
This is the famous Norbert.
This is the famous. We can bring Norbert on screen while we're. Hello,
awesome.
Norbert.
What's up, Norbert?
Norbert is tossing a toy up and down the room, and his collar rattles. So let me think. I went back for German because I wanted to at this point. It was no longer satisfying any requirement. Then I sort of placed out of tests as I could because I didn't want to really take the college courses. And so I just kind of studied enough to get through some sort of placement test to say you've done 1 semester of college, which is not too much to deal with. And then I did an immersion in Italy. Then I moved to Vienna to get a master's degree. I did an immersion in Perugia, Italy, and then tried to get back into Middlebury for French and cheated on their placement test so I could get into a higher level, and cheated too well and then panicked and then found out about Anki and then tried to combine the immersion experience I had at Middlebury with the spaced repetition stuff that everyone on the internet was doing. And it left me with this method that blew me away in terms of how well it worked. And that's when all this stuff started.
Cool. So all of that is the beginning of Fluent Forever, which is your book and your company and all these various products and a million things at this point.
Yeah.
So what is Fluent Forever? If you had to sum it up for people, what is Fluent Forever and what makes it different from the other sort of language learning methods out there?
I guess Fluent Forever is a methodology. I think that's the thing that's at its core. Like, sure, it's a book and it's a company and it's a product and all these things, but like the thing that's important is that it's a methodology, and it's a methodology that takes the language problem, I think, like head on in terms of what the actual problem is, which is memory.
Yeah.
That language is not a thing of, wow, this is just, grammar is so hard. Like, sure,
Yeah.
grammar can be hard. That's not the problem. We're good at grammar. We're intrinsically really good at grammar if you can handle the memory burden. Pronunciation is so hard. Well, like, yeah, it is. But there are ways around that. And really, again, this, like, it's hard because of some legit things that are really associated just with pronunciation, but like also memory. Vocab is memory. Like everything comes down to there's a huge memory burden when it comes to languages, where most people who speak languages fluently have had 15,000 or 20,000 hours of exposure, and you're trying to simulate that in 500 or 1,000 hours.
Right.
And if you don't have some sort of solid methodology for getting that much content, which is just an insane amount of data, into your head such that it stays there, then you are going to be working at this thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so that's like the short version, I guess, of like, this is Fluent Forever in its core. Like that's what I think matters about Fluent Forever.
Yeah. And you mentioned pronunciation, and I know that you're a big proponent of having a good accent and doing that from the very beginning of the process. And I would love to dig into that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess maybe the first place to start would be, what are the most important things that someone needs to be aware of and doing in order to have a good accent? Or perhaps, first of all, why is it important to have a good accent?
Sure.
And second of all, how do we go about developing that?
So the good accent is like the I don't know, third most important thing maybe in terms of like why it's important to have a good accent. Like, the actual accent itself is good, but like is not the most important thing. That having a good accent is handy on that level, like, because you're sounding good. Why does anyone care if you sound good? That's important because if you don't sound good, then people will generally not speak to you in your target language.
Yeah.
So that's like sad, like that's annoying that people would do that. It's understandable in the sense that if you're saying things and they don't understand what you're saying, they're gonna feel uncomfortable and they're gonna want to switch to English, especially if you are an English native speaker, because there are too many people who speak English. And so it is always the easiest option is just being like, whoa, I don't know what you're saying. I'm just going to switch to English because I speak better English clearly.
Yeah. Even
if you don't, like, even if your French or your Japanese is like phenomenal, except you have a terrible accent, like from the standpoint of the native speaker, that terrible accent is making them think that you are dumber than you are.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But that's there. That gives you like more interactions in your target language. That gives you more input. Like, all that stuff is good. But like, that's number 3. The thing that in the course of pursuing a good accent, the things you need to do in order to get that good accent, that's training your ears. And as you train your ears, that allows you to remember words.
Yeah.
If you take Japanese speakers and you try to teach them a bunch of words with R's and L's in them, and they can't hear the difference, they're going to have a really hard time remembering those words, which is going to make them slower in learning English for the whole time. They will not speed up. Like, this will be just this mile, like this. It's not miles. What is that thing? Millstone. It's like a millstone around their neck. It's just like this. This is a weight through our whole language learning process that never goes away.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is that if you don't deal with the pronunciation aspect early, then now you're dealing with not only the fact that modifying pronunciation is challenging, but you just stuck 100, 200, 300 hours of bad habits behind you.
Right.
And unlearning bad habits is really hard.
Yeah, not fun.
So no, it's rough. And so like you skipping all that work is like another efficiency thing that's huge. So
Right.
it's skipping difficult work, it's making your normal work easier, and then there's this like side benefit of like, hey, you have a good accent, now people will actually talk to you.
Yeah.
In terms of like how to do this thing, the main thing I care about is ear training, and that's the part. And I care about it not because it's like definitely the most important thing. I think it's the most ignored thing.
Hmm.
And like very specific ear training with minimal pairs, which are words that sound almost the same. So if you're learning English and you can't hear the difference between niece, like my niece is whatever 5 years old, and knees, my knees are hurting today. If you can't hear the difference between niece and knees, then you need pairs of words that sound just the same, except for that one sound difference of that z sound in that particular place at the end of that word. Like you need combos like that. And you need to hear them at random. Hear one of those words. You need to test yourself. Can I tell the difference? Do I know which word this is? And you need to do that repeatedly until you get them right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's going to help you between niece and knees. That's the thing that's going to help Japanese speakers between rake and lake. Like all of these things are necessary and are going to solve that memory burden, and then solve the ear burden, like solve the ear thing, which will solve the memory thing, and which also allows you to develop a decent accent. If you can't monitor your own accent, if you can't hear what's coming out of your mouth, all the pronunciation advice in the world of saying, no, move your tongue here and open your mouth more. None of that's going to stick because you can't self-correct.
Yeah.
And so like that stuff is usually what's talked about with pronunciation. It's like, how do you move your mouth? And that stuff is important, but it's like, it's wasted unless you can hear it.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I've heard you speak about in other interviews that as an opera singer, you had classes, like entire semesters of just pronunciation. What were you doing in those classes? Are there any kind of exercises or specific habits that you might have picked up there that might help people get to the next level? Let's say they're doing the minimal pairs, they're doing the ear training. What are you guys doing in those classes?
So in those classes, mostly we are, it's interesting thinking back to that. It's been so long. It was a 2-semester course in diction. It was 1 semester in, did we start with English? We might have started with English. If I were designing this, I would start with English. It was, I believe, English and German in the first semester, where it was like a half English, then half German. So all English all the time, and then all German all the time. Then all French all the time, and then all Italian all the time. The order of those last 3 might have been different, but learning how to look at English words that you know how to pronounce, and then assign phonetic symbols, like learn how to handle the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Right.
And see that if I'm going to say a word like niece, that's usually 5 letters long, and that being able to say, okay, well, yeah, that's spelled this way, but if I actually think about what I am saying, that is n, e, s, and write that down, and write N-I-S actually in IPA.
Yeah.
And then look at a word like knees and be like, well, what's the difference there? I have K-N-E-E-S. Like, no, I have N-E-Z, knees. And being able to really think about the things that you can say and break them down, like beginning that ability is something that focuses your attention in a way that I think is super important, and is something that I haven't really recommended to people that much. And maybe I should. Like I do think that was super valuable, because like it's a weird way to think. Like you're used to thinking, oh, knees, like, yeah, that has like, there's like a K in it. Like, no, there isn't.
Right, exactly.
There's totally no K in there at all. You know, there's a double E, there's a long E. Like, no, there's not a long E. We don't really have long E's in English. And then as you get this sense of the International Phonetic Alphabet, and then you add another language to the mix, and you say, okay, well, now let's talk about German, and let's look at schön, and then you're like, well, wait, now there's a lot of new stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And but some of it's the same. And so like, is this sh sound exactly the same, or is it a little bit different? And is it same, close enough that we use the same symbol or not? Like all those questions focus your attention in a way that I think is really valuable,
Yeah.
and particularly worth the time. That's going to be sort of the more important question: it is it valuable for sure? Is it best use of your first week of learning? Mate,
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of it was about building the awareness of what sounds are you actually making, because you haven't been thinking about it your whole life up until this point.
Yeah.
Was there a more like muscular mouth training component? Like, do you guys go in the practice room and practice sentences in German or songs
I mean,
or?
there were oral tests for those, like for those particular classes, there were oral tests, but the main thing that they wanted us to be able to do was look at a passage in German, look at a sentence in German, transcribe it back into the International Phonetic Alphabet,
I see.
and be able to do that really just on it, like be fluent-ish in that alphabet. And then we would have oral tests to see how, like, could we get really close to these sounds? The way that was those accents were really polished, though, those were through coachings. Those were through one-on-one coachings where you would say, "Oh, like, das ist schön," and they're like, "No, not you're saying schön. I want schön." And then you're like, "Schön?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Nope, you said schön again. I want schön." And that in practice, like if someone is repeating after you what you're saying, in many ways that is minimal pair testing. It's like the one-on-one version of minimal pair testing.
I see.
And so that's how that starts getting polished is with coaches who are willing to impersonate you and tell you what you're doing wrong.
I see. Cool. So from there, you studied all of these languages for opera.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Then the book happened and you learned Hungarian. Is that right?
I studied the languages French, Italian, German.
Yeah.
I guess German, then Italian, then French. The French thing happened. I was like, oh, this is I need to write about this. I started writing about it in Reddit and stuff. Then it got to Lifehacker. After Lifehacker, the book contract sold, and I signed the contract in Middlebury on my first day before I took the language pledge for Russian. This is my last chance to read this contract.
Yeah.
So I looked at the contract, I signed it, and then I took the language pledge at night for Russian. I did a summer of Russian, and I had spent that year doing the Fluent Forever method modified for Russian.
Yeah.
Finished Russian 2012. Spent the next year and a half writing the book while learning Hungarian as a test run. Continued doing Hungarian for, I think, another year after that. Then I switched to Japanese. Then I did about a year of Japanese, stopped it, learned Spanish because I was getting married.
Yeah.
And I to speak to my in-laws and family, and we were going to do a party in Mexico, and I needed to be able to speak to people there.
Yeah.
So I spent 8 months learning Spanish. And then I spent 6 months learning Spanish for the wedding, and I kept going for another 2 months to kind of keep it going and really ingrain it. And then Kickstarter happened, and I stopped everything.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't. And then, like 4 days ago, I started Japanese up again.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's dig into Japanese then.
Sure.
What makes Japanese different from the other languages?
Kanji.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing. I mean, the hiragana and katakana as they're not significant in terms of a substantial difference in how hard the language is. Yeah, it's
Right.
more letters, like symbols. But the fact that you're dealing with 2 symbol sets for words doesn't end up being that hard.
Yeah.
The idea of learning 100 symbols instead of your normal like 30 for a language like Russian.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not that big a deal.
Right.
The pronunciation stuff has has equal challenges to most other languages. Some could argue that Japanese is easier. I would say about the same. If you're really going to be like accurate about it, there's a lot of new stuff in Japanese pronunciation that's challenging. Pitch accent's hard. The vowels are particular. There's a lot of some of the consonants are quite new. So all that's just even like the idea of word order and grammar and vocabulary, all that stuff is roughly even with like Hungarian, which like that's crappy to say. People look at Hungarian, they're like, oh my God, this is so hard. Hungarian is actually not is even to Russian. Hungarian is twice as hard as French. Like Hungarian is right in the middle of the road. But the thing that Hungarian is special about is that it's there's no overlap for vocabulary.
Right.
So like that's hard about Hungarian, that's hard about Japanese. Like that's even. But kanji just takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just special. It's there's nothing like it. I mean, except for the Chinese set, which is the same damn set. Like that spelling, like that writing system is like the source of so much difficulty in this world and beauty. Like it's like I love it and I hate it. Like it's the memory burden of kanji is completely, it just blows everything else out of the water in terms of how hard that is.
Okay, so let's talk about kanji.
Let's do it. Yeah.
How do you deal with this beast?
So I keep trying things. I keep modifying things. I had my first approach and then I changed it around in like 3 months after that. So I was like, this is failing. And then I changed it again, and now I'm sort of changing it a third or fourth or fifth time. One of the patterns that's really interesting in terms of developing these methods is that they'll work for a while, and that's makes it really tricky to design for to do like learning design. Like with Russian, like I had my system for French, for instance. I was doing a lot of productive flashcards where I would have a sentence with a fill in the blank, and that was that.
Yeah.
I went to the store. I blanked to the store, and I would use that to learn a word like went, and that was it for French.
And by that you mean you're not doing a comprehension flashcard?
Yes, there's no flashcard that just says went.
Gotcha.
There's I blank to the store. There's always a story. There's always a story. There's always a picture, and I'm producing the word. I did this for French, and it worked fine. It worked great. I did this for Russian, and it worked great for a week. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to study harder. And so I kept doing it, and I did it for like 2 months, and I found that like almost like 70% of my vocabulary would only stick for a month. And then as soon as the interval got to a month, I couldn't remember it. And so my reviews started growing and growing, and I'm just like, I hate this. Like I hate studying every day. And then I thought, well, what if I doubled all the flashcards? What if every flashcard that said I blank to school has a sister flashcard that says went?
Yeah.
Give me any example of went? And suddenly Russian became easy.
Yeah.
It was just an immediate change. And so for Japanese, the first thing I was trying was just like, hey, write the kanji. That's unfair. Actually, the first thing I was trying was learn all the radicals, and that was absolutely the right way to go. And I learned not just all of the standard radical set, but I learned the little modifications. If there's going to be 3 versions of heart, then I'm going to learn them as 3 separate radicals. If there's going to be different kinds of fire, great. Different kinds of fire. Like if there's every time that there's a slight modification and it's going to look different in a different case, then I will learn another mnemonic, and maybe that mnemonic will be similar. Like I'll have a torch for one flavor of fire, and I'll have a big bonfire for another flavor of fire, and I'll have, I don't know, like a bunch of bears running around caught on fire, and those are like the little ones in the bottom. Like, whatever.
Right.
I'll have all kinds of fire, but they will all be fire. Like they'll all share that quality with them.
Yeah.
But I'll use as many mnemonics as I can to learn each of these individual radicals. And so I learned all my radicals, and then I tried flashcards saying, all right, well, now you know your radicals, so we're just jumping in. We're going to start learning vocab and go. Write the kanji. And I'm like, I don't remember the kanji. Crap. Like, and I sit there sort of struggling, coming up with mnemonic stories for every single one on the spot. And I was like, okay, well, now it's taking me 3 minutes per flashcard instead of the 10 seconds or 5 seconds I want.
Right.
So my answer is always, okay, we'll add more flashcards. If there's ever a problem, add more flashcards. And so the next iteration was ask for the story. Meaning, why doesn't it have a flashcard that's explicitly just, I don't care what which one goes where. I just want who are the characters in my story. Is there a torch? Is there a woman? Like, great. Woman torch story. This is about women and torches.
Yeah.
And then I would have a second flashcard saying, well, now you know your story. Take the story and assemble it into kanji.
Yeah.
That worked pretty well for about a month.
Yeah. Right.
And then it was like, this is not working well enough. I still hate this. So let's add another flashcard. And the next one that I added started being very, very effective. And this I call this Kanji Signatures, where basically, and this could go further, but like there was a point of thinking like, well, there's always a balance here. It's like, now I have 2 flashcards for every kanji memorization task.
Yeah.
And that wasn't enough. Now I could turn that into like, I want 10 flashcards for every kanji memorization task, but like that could be too many. So there's a balance here.
Sure.
And so I asked, the next flashcard I added was, what are the first 2 mnemonics? What are the like in the stroke order, what are the very first 2 things? And I want them as a unit. Just what are those 2 things together?
Yeah.
And that immediately got rid of all the difficulty for about 3 months.
Yeah.
But like significant. Like that was like the first huge breakthrough, was like me knowing exactly where to start made things way easier. If I could get the first 2 radicals out of it, even something that has like 4 or 5 radicals in it, that's usually enough to get you going all the way to the end.
Right.
And so having explicit tests saying, just tell me how this begins, was super helpful. Then it started getting harder, and I started realizing that learning a new mnemonic was always the easiest thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime I hit a radical that was new, and I just was like, all right, well, that looks like a top hat mnemonic, like this, that's our new mnemonic. And I'd make 2 flashcards for it. Like, this is the chunk. I just sort of like got a little screen grab of this little piece of the kanji. Yeah. And I'm like, just randomly top hat. This is the top hat one. Done.
Yeah.
And I would make 2 flashcards for this thing. It would take me 15 seconds to make the 2 flashcards. I mean, it took about 5 seconds for me to make a completely arbitrary decision about what image to get.
Right.
Take me like 5 seconds to find it on Google Images. Yeah. And like 5 seconds to drag it over and hit enter. Like that was about it. That's the whole like creation process, super fast. Yeah. The learning process, I very rarely forgot any of them. Yeah. Those are cards that I saw. I would see them the next day after I created them. I would remember them just fine because I took the 5 seconds to think, I guess it looks like a top hat. Yeah. That's enough of a interaction for me to remember it. Once I tested it that first day, it would come back in 4 days and I would remember it. And so I would consistently remember it 95% of the time. So I would see and each test would not be me thinking like, God, which one was it? But it would be like 3 seconds of me looking at this thing, being like, oh yeah, that's the top hat one. Right. Yeah. And so I see these flashcards because of the spaced repetition thing. I'm looking at these flashcards maybe 6 times over 6 months, maybe less. Wow. For 3 seconds a pop. So I'm using about 18 seconds on these things over 6 months. Yeah. And that's how long it takes to remember a mnemonic. Yeah. To create and remember a mnemonic. Yeah. So all in all, around 30 seconds of my life has been spent with a completely new mnemonic. And it's like, well, this is the least friction of this whole process. Yeah. So what if I just made more of those? Yeah. Instead of sticking with these 50 or 100 radicals that I started with, what if all of these like kanji signature things, these like double, like this test of what is the double, the first 2? Yeah. What if instead of making kanji signatures, all I did was every time I see a combination that I haven't seen before, I make a double thing. I see fire and I see woman. Well, if I want to, I'll make a mnemonic of this is now woman on fire. Or this is something completely new. This is a candlestick. Screw it. Like, we're just going to add a completely new arbitrary image. Like, it doesn't matter. All of these decisions, as long as I make them, the decision doesn't matter. Yeah, right. So let's make a double. Let's do, this is now Woman on Fire. This one is, person from, the Mockingjay series. This is, Skull. I don't care. And I just started making more and more. I basically would make a new mnemonic every time I learned a new piece of kanji.
Yeah.
Or like 4 out of 5 times.
Yeah.
And that solved the memory thing once again.
Yeah.
And so that made things super, super easy, and I could just sort of progress. And the only thing that really, really hampered me was the interface. Was dealing with these flashcards that I had designed that had like 20 or 30 fields in them.
Yeah.
And it was just so burdensome.
Yeah. Right.
That I got tired. And the solution there was like, screw this, I'm making my own app.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I've started up, like this year. The thing I started 4 days ago was like, with 3 months or 4 months of no maintenance, my Japanese has fallen apart, especially the written component. Right. That stuff doesn't stick well, and so, coming back into it with this pile of thousands of flashcards to review is not something I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I started up with Skritter.
Oh, really? Cool.
And I found it so satisfying, mostly because of the sound it makes. This idea of this chalkboard feel to it. And it's just reminding me of all these words that I already know and are already in my head somewhere. That I am tempted to drop out the active creation of kanji from my Anki flashcards. Meaning everything that requires active recall of me knowing how to write these things. Yeah. Do exclusively passive. If I should be able to understand everything I read and knock it down to 3 flashcards per word instead of 10. Yeah. And then use Skritter. And that's right now this sort of hybrid approach until I make my own app. Because like I do feel like this writing thing with the sounds and the feel of like with my finger is very satisfying. I can't do that in Anki. Yeah. And so far, I'm not noticing a lot of problems, meaning that like, yeah, I'm looking at English and stuff, but my memories are already in Japanese of these words. Yeah. Me adding another translation to it is not a problem because I already have the Japanese there. Right. So if this is mostly review and I'm not really learning new concepts, I'm just getting a finger experience with words I know already. Yeah. Not bad. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now, is this approach of like combining my stuff with this Skritter thing.
Okay. That's cool to know. Skritter is one of those things I've been meaning to check out, but I've been such in a like head down, like I need to study so much right now, like for the last year, that I've just been putting off all of that other stuff that I want to try till now. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking out that. But back to the mnemonic thing, I ended up landing on something very similar, if not exactly the same.
Where are you at? Yeah.
And I found the same thing, that the more mnemonics I made, the better my life got. Yeah. It doesn't cost a whole lot in terms of time or mental effort, and it makes everything so much easier. And it allows you to have those sort of 5 to 10 second flashcard answer times that you were talking about, which I think is really important, because you can't be sitting there looking at something for 3 minutes trying to remember your story.
It drives you crazy.
It's horrible. So what I ended up doing is doubling every time I see a combination of 2 new pieces. That becomes a new mnemonic. And I just keep building that up until I have 1 image per character.
That's lovely.
And that's it. So I have no more stroke order flashcards. I have no more signature flashcards. It's just those mnemonics. And that's been great. Working really nice. So, cool. So, as far as the rest of your Japanese, you mentioned you're using, 3 flashcards per word at this point.
That's the plan. At this point, all I've been doing is Skritter, because I'm just trying to get myself over the hurdle of being like, okay, I'm starting this up again, and I need to figure out, am I putting everything on hold? Like, am I suspending all of my cards and starting from scratch? Yeah. Or am I keeping some segment of them? I'm not keeping all of them. Yeah. but I probably will keep my mnemonics,
Yeah.
and I'll probably feed myself those mnemonics gradually because I can't just jump to the most complicated ones when I've forgotten most of them.
Yeah.
But I may well keep those. I may well keep all the audio only flashcards I've created because they're fun.
Yeah.
Those
Do you want to talk about those for a
obviously
second?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's been this question that I will get every like 2 months, which is I have a long commute. I'm driving. What do I do?
Yeah.
Is there something I can do of value while I'm driving? And my answer for the last few years has been there are not that many good options. Pretty much the only one I can recommend, sort of, kind of, is Pimsleur. It's all translation based, but they have their spaced repetition game down.
Yeah.
And there's just no other products. Yeah. So at the very least, you'll get some sentences in your head. They'll sound decent. And later, when you actually learn the language, instead of this sort of fake like translation thing, you'll remember, oh yeah, I have this block in my head that Pimsleur said was like, how do I get to the bus stop? And suddenly I understand the word bus and stop and how do I get to, and all these pieces. And it's like, I totally get it finally. Like now this thing that I learned 6 months ago now makes sense. And that is not bad.
Sure.
And so the best option for what do you do in the car was not too bad.
Yeah.
Which was sad to recommend. Like, I always felt dirty recommending it because I'm like, this is not great, but like, what do you do? Like, what can you possibly do when you're not at a level where you can listen to podcasts and stuff? What do you do from in an intermediate or lower level?
Gotcha.
But like, if you could convince Anki or some app to basically read you flashcards you already knew, and if you have a blank, like I went to the store, if it could say, I blank to the store, or I poop to the store.
Yeah.
And you have seen that flashcard 4 or 5 times, and you know the image associated with it. Then a text-to-speech thing saying, I boop to the store would help you. You would remember, like, oh yeah, I've seen that flashcard so many times. Like, I know what we're talking about here. Right. And this is the flashcard that I am using, that I have used for 6 months to teach myself the word went. The answer is went. And that you somehow indicate to the program, let me know I think I know the answer. And it says text to speech went. And you say, yep, I got it. And you have some way to indicate, I got it.
Gotcha.
Like, that's a thing that could be done audio only.
Yeah.
If the thing did the reverse, if the thing said went, what's that? Yeah. You know what the word went is?
Yeah.
And you can think of any number of examples, and then you say, you tell me, and it reads you either a definition of went, the past tense of to go, or it reads you an example sentence that you have used, I went to school yesterday, or both. Yeah. If it could do that text to speech and you could indicate yes or no, like that would totally be legit and work really well and be a valuable use of your time. And then the last part was like, if it could say, what is the past tense of to go? Or, what is the place, it read you a definition of this thing, the place where students go to learn things. And you're like, school, and it says school, and you get it right, and you tell it I got it right or wrong.
Yeah.
Any of those things can be done via audio, but how? And so I jumbled together a way of making Anki do it, because you can jumble a way to make Anki do most of anything.
Yeah, it sure can.
It was a lot of work. It's really fiddly. The interface is. I got more flack over that article than any other article I've ever written.
Oh, really?
I got so many comments from people being like, you are going to kill people. This is the most irresponsible thing you've ever written. That everyone will die. And people were so angry at me. And I get it. I don't want people texting and driving. I don't want people looking at flashcards while driving.
Yeah.
But the thing I did want to do was, is there a way that I can sit there and look at the road and hear things like went and, I blank to school and, this is where people study.
Yeah.
And there is a way to do that with Anki. It does involve one hand swiping left and right as if you got it right and wrong. And that's not ideal and it's not where I want to go. Right. But I did want to test, does this idea work? Is this a valid concept that we can make hands free?
Yeah.
And as an idea, as a concept, like it's awesome. Like it feels so good to sit there in
Cool.
the car and be like, I have nothing to do here.
Yeah.
I need to get 40 minutes from here. And my phone is asking me questions in a foreign language, and I am getting better at Japanese, like substantially better at Japanese. Like I'm learning to parse text to speech in Japanese, which is harder than a normal native speaker because it's a little more like monotone and weak.
Yeah.
And handle definitions in Japanese that are like rough, and I'm still handling it. And I'm just struggling here in my car, like trying to handle definitions in Japanese. And I'm doing it. And like, there's this thing like driving somewhere where you're like, this is a chore while you're feeling super accomplished and your language skills are getting way better. Like that is exactly what these people have been asking me for every 2 months.
Yeah.
And the idea that like, no, I can totally make this happen is like super exciting. And then playing with it was super exciting. So like I remember like I got it working. I went home and I was like, holy crap, I came up with this thing. And people were like, you're going to kill people. And I'm like, oh no, don't you understand? I'm excited. Like,
The guys.
yes, this is dangerous, but it's so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the audio only flashcard thing.
Okay. Awesome. So, I think that leads nicely into our next point here, which is, speaking of building things, the app that you are working on. You are
Yeah.
currently running this ongoing crowdfunding campaign, which has been wildly successful. That you just passed, what is it, double the Kickstarter record for an app?
I mean, it's weird because we did that. Like we doubled the record of like the crowdfunding record for an app. The crowdfunding record for the app was relatively low. It was 332,000. It was the most that was ever raised in history for an app on crowdfunding, which is like, oh, well, it's okay. I need at least that to get anything done here.
Yeah.
But we doubled it last week. We got to 664,000 last week. But this last week was like this New Year's sale, and it went insane. And we doubled it. Like we doubled our Indiegogo earnings. Like we moved from Kickstarter to Indiegogo.
Right.
And so at this point, we're like at 712,000. We passed the Japanese Mandarin thing. Like we're now, I know, finally, I can officially say, like unofficially this whole time been like, I'm not making an app that doesn't do Japanese. Like, I'm making this app so I can learn Japanese more like comfortably. But now I can officially say we will support Japanese and Mandarin, like for reals.
Awesome.
There's going to be not just hacked together, but like solid development for this thing.
Yeah.
And like the next goal is everything. The next goal is universal language support. Just you should be able to use this tool for whatever you want.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, so for the people that don't know, what is this app gonna do, and why should you be interested in it?
Sure. The Fluent Forever like method has been something that I have no qualms about recommending to anyone. It's like anyone who's read basically anyone who's read my book. I've never seen a response to my book that's been anything other than like, oh, that seems like that should work just fine. Like that's cool.
Right.
I've never seen someone look at this and be like, this is garbage. I don't understand why he would even say this. Like the people come out of the book being like, that's a solid method. I think that, yeah, someone could learn a language that way. And then they get into it. And some people can get over the learning curve of handling Anki, and some people can't. Some people are really like turned off by that. Right. And I am turned off by that with Japanese. Like I stopped my Japanese in some sense because of struggles with the interface with Anki. Yeah. And that's no fault of Anki's. That's they are doing a solid thing in terms of creating a platform that handles everything. Yeah. But that's not my goal. I'm not trying to learn everything for language learning. Like the Fluent Forever thing is very specific to languages, and languages have this gift in the sense that, yeah, it's so like there's so much to learn, there's so much to remember, but all of it is stored in sentences. Yeah. There's no language that doesn't use sentences. So you have one type of data, and like there's almost no other field that has a large memory burden of a lot of things to learn that has one data type. Right. And so it makes this whole thing so much easier because if you know the one data type, I want to get sentences and chunks of sentences, these word things, into that person's head.
Yeah.
Like if that's your only goal, then you get to skip so many steps. And so uh, the problem with Fluent Forever always has been the tools.
Yeah.
We're taking a tool that's designed for everything and we're using it with languages, and making that transition is hard. And so there's this 3 hour or 4 hour learning curve of how to learn to use Anki really well and efficient. And then like managing that where every day you are wasting some of your time doing repetitive tasks of I'm going to copy and paste this sentence to this field. I'm going to delete this word and copy it here. I'm going to drag this image from here to there. All of these tasks where you could ask someone else to do it. Those are tasks that you shouldn't need to have to do. There are parts of that work that are super important. Every decision you make is super important. And so there was always a desire for a shortcut, and it's never possible, which is just make me my flashcards. Like never possible. Will ruin you. So there are these important parts and there are these unimportant parts. And it's like, if we could get rid of the unimportant parts and make everything that was monotonous and boring, just make that automatic. And the only thing you left to the user was, I want you to make decisions. I want you to say, what word do you want to learn? I want you to look at some sentences that use that word and think about how it's used and be like, oh, it's interesting. That's not how I would expect that to be used. And decide, I like that sentence the most.
Yep.
And you decide, I like that picture the most to symbolize this word in that sentence. Mm-hmm. And it's not a matter of how do I elicit that image? How do I find that image? It's just, it's in front of you. Here's 8 images. Which one do you think works best?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, here you can go, here's a way to get more images. But like in like the simplest form is just, here's a word, it's in a sentence. Tell me which of these 8 images you like the most. 2 or 3 of them, it's fine. And then you choosing again, do I care about anything else in this sentence? You care about that word? Great. Let's get you another image.
Yeah.
And if you could get people to go through this cycle of making those choices, what word, what sentence, what image, what word, what image, what word, what image, am I done with the sentence? I'm done. Okay, what's the next word? What's the next sentence? What's the next image? Yeah. And if that's the only thing you're sticking in front of users, that makes this language learning thing so easy.
Yeah.
And so like fun in some sense of like, all you have to do is discover. Like, that's the awesome part. It's like you looking at sentences being like, they say that? That's how it's done here? Like, whoa, okay, cool. Let's store that image. Done.
Yeah.
And then have a thing that spits out all the content that all the choices you just made are then reused to help you remember those choices again. Like, that's a dream tool.
Absolutely.
The thing I've wanted for like 6 years. And this Kickstarter was like, it was like, finally, we have enough of an audience. I think we can fund this thing. And then we did. And then it's like, well, we're going to make the dream tool. Like, we're going to build this thing that's going to do all the things that I've always wanted it to do.
Beautiful.
So that's what this tool is.
Yeah. I think people are dying to have an app that they can just open up and start learning and have it actually work.
So the thing, have it actually work. I mean, people have Duolingo and it's like, it totally is fun.
Right.
And it doesn't teach you what you want.
Exactly.
It doesn't teach you to speak the language. It teaches you some stuff.
Yeah.
But get like an actual tool that gets you thinking in your target language and building fluency. Like, that's the dream. And that's like, it's going to happen.
That is awesome.
Weird.
And real quick, since you just passed the Japanese stretch goal, what kind of features do you have in mind for Japanese specifically? I mean, we won't hold you to any commitments.
Don't hold me to the commitments because I need to run it by the design team, because every time my programmers are just like, you promised them that? That's $100,000. Like, the thing I want in Japanese is, like, as we've been talking about, like, mnemonic generation makes Japanese doable. Like that seems to be the key to that language, and the key to any language that uses kanji or uses that character set, Japanese and Chinese languages, the Chinese dialects, whatever.
Right.
And so there should be really, really straightforward mnemonic creation. no matter what. Like if we're gonna like have the ability to like do writing tests, like that's a question. I don't know. Is that important or not? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, if there are tools out there already that are good for that, then maybe we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But what doesn't exist is the ability to really easily look at a character that has 20 strokes in it, do the first 3 strokes and say, these first 3 strokes, that's my mnemonic. This is a new radical.
Yeah.
I want this to be a radical.
Yeah.
And so what I would love is the ability to simply to really easily divide a character into new radicals and make it really easy to turn those into mnemonics, where you're just like you have the ability to trace out that character in stroke order, or just say I want strokes 1 through 7, whatever. But you trace out strokes 1 through 7, and you say there's the dividing line. Now strokes 8 through 12, next dividing line, 13 through 20, final dividing line.
Yeah.
Please make a mnemonic for 1, 2, and 3. I want those to be 3 completely new ideas. And it just asks you for pictures, and you're like, these are my pictures, and I'm done. And then for any future word that uses that mnemonic, you can just say, this one, match it to that one. Same thing. I don't need, like, this is not a new one. This is the same one. And just tag it, being this is like I've taken care of this. Just tag it. This is that top hat mnemonic. Yeah. So that's the thing that I think is sort of most key to being able to have a tool that's really designed for these languages. Yeah. Is really easy mnemonic generation.
Sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to building it. Like I'm like, get Spanish out of the way so we can get there.
Cool. So where can people find out about this app, the crowdfunding campaign you're doing, the book, everything? Where should people go?
I guess the easiest thing would just be to go to fluent-forever.com. On the top of every page there's a thing saying, hey, we're doing this crowdfunding thing. Don't ignore us. Yeah. So that's option 1. Or go to indiegogo.fluent-forever.com, and that'll redirect you straight to the Indiegogo page.
Great.
But honestly, as soon as you go to fluent-forever.com, we're going to probably hit you with so many ads that it's going to be to ignore.
Okay, so go to fluentforever.com. Fluent-forever.
Yeah.
Great. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add or ask of the audience, or some parting advice?
Parting advice? I guess... the thing that came to mind was in terms of language support with this new thing. Just to know that this resource is about to start existing. That's like, there's the like cool part of this app thing where like I'm excited to like learn Japanese with this app because it's cool. But there's this other part that I find really, really like meaningful, which is that I want people to like know is about to happen and that they can contribute to. And I don't mean financially, I mean they can contribute like data to this thing. One of the neat, like weird things about like the process I've been going through with learning Japanese is it's been with a tutor. We've been creating sentences for each of the words that I want to learn. And so over the course of the year that I was spending learning Japanese, I developed like 1,000 sentences and had them recorded. Super useful for me, completely useless for everybody else in the world. Right. Sad, because like that would be really, really helpful for people. Yeah. And so one of the concepts with this app was, well, let's make it really easy for people to do what I was doing, which is work with a tutor and get content and record it and put it into your flashcards. But why don't we share that? So why doesn't everyone who puts in content get to see everyone else's content? And let's proofread this. Let's have a Japanese native speaker on staff who can look at the content that people are generating and say, this one's good. Like, don't worry. So we don't have any problems about people dumping in junk. Like if you see it in the database, it's been approved like that. So that seems cool. And that's like exciting. Like, yay, we get to make this really big database. And you get 5 people who are learning Japanese the way I did, and suddenly you have 5,000 sentences. And it's really exciting. You have a lot of data. Yeah. That's neat. You do that with Mohawk. You do that with any of the Iroquois languages. You do that with a bunch of languages that are dying. You get 5 people to work with a native speaker and create 1,000 sentences each so that they individually can become fluent in this language. And you let them share that data. And now you haven't done, like, now it's no longer cool.
Wow. Yeah. That's
like, it's a whole different thing. Like this is where like I I care so much about this being right, because that kind of resource can save a language.
That is awesome.
Like 5,000 sentences that have been recorded in Mohawk. That's enough to develop a high intermediate to low advanced level of fluency if you learn those things without any other content. And like, that's 5 students worth of work. That's 5 people. That's it. Like, and so that's something where really easily we can create resources that become the world's largest resource of any of these dying languages or any of these minority languages, where it's a resource that creates itself.
Right.
And it preserves a language and makes it so that anyone in the world can suddenly learn this language.
Wow.
To like a really, like, not like I know how to translate some stuff, but like I can think in Mohawk. And so like, that's the thing that is like driving me on this thing is like, I really want the cool Japanese tool, but like, that thing is so important that exists. So like that I want people to know that that's coming. And that if someone decides, hey, I'm curious about this language that not that many people speak, you have an opportunity not just to learn that language, but to contribute, like to make a resource for everyone else in the world to learn that language in the course of you learning that. And like, that's important. So I just want that to be known.
Wow. Okay, that is cool. I'm glad you brought that up, and I think that's great as far as helping to preserve the dying languages, and also for all the other languages too. I think that is going to be one of the most valuable parts of the app.
Yeah.
And I can tell from my experience learning Japanese, at some point I ended up going to some pre-made flashcard decks, which I know is very naughty, with this Fluent Forever stuff. And I was like, nah, I'm going to make my own flashcards. And what I eventually realized is I could still go into those flashcards that have native speaker audio for all the sentences and customize those. So I suspend them all in Anki, and I can go through and pick out words I want to learn, still get all of that customization aspect. But this database that you're going to build is going to have that for all of these languages, fueled by the users. It's going to be so much bigger than any other kind of resource like that that exists. So I think that is huge, and to be able to just tap on words and make flashcards that easy is going to be that much more of a.
I think it's going to change a lot. Yeah.
I do too. So great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And
my pleasure.
Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Not that I could think of.
Great. Okay, so I would encourage everybody to go check out Fluent Forever, Gabriel Wyner, the author of Fluent Forever, and check out all the cool things he's doing. And that's it. So,
alrighty.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Okay. See ya.